Hello and welcome to Team Awesome Power Hour. We are so pleased to bring to you today Anon. If you've never heard of him, your life's about to change. And we are highlighting today our January Sixers. And I'm going to let Dean share a little more about that.
Uh, we have our January 6th political prisoner patriots. They're being held illegally. We have the right to assemble, and
Yes.
they use that right, and they're being persecuted and prosecuted for it. Our guest today, Pinon, has currently 10 indictments against him, with possibly more coming, or so the rumor is it. But most of those, the counts they have against him, obstruction of official proceedings. He, he never went to the building. There's no way this stuff could have happened. You have assaulting or resisting officers, counts 3, 4, 5, uh, six, 3, 4, and 5 are assaulting officers. With millions of people there, they were somehow able to remember. I guess it's a very memorable face because they were all able to remember that face out of the million people that were there. It's absolutely astounding. Entering the building, which he did not do, defacing property, disorderly and disruptive conduct, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. There's no way they could pin this man out of the million of people that were there and say, "Oh yeah, I remember him." It's just ridiculous. So we would really like to take this opportunity now to introduce you to Pinon. He has incredible stories. He is one of the J6ers, and he does sing for freedom every night, uh,
Yes.
uh, singing in solidarity the national anthem with our J6ers every night at 9 o'clock. So we're going to let Pinon take it away and get his story going. Welcome.
Great. Hey, thank you, and I certainly appreciate the chance to be here. It's always an honor and a privilege. I've enjoyed watching your last couple of episodes. The Supreme Court case that you guys have been highlighting is going to be huge, and I see that it could be very huge for our January 6th inmates, defendants, and their families as well. So thank you very much for everything that you guys have been doing.
It's our
Well, thank you.
pleasure. And I don't think that the January 6th date on that Supreme Court is by any coincidence. There are no coincidences, as we all
That's
know.
it. There are no coincidences.
Yeah, I think God's about to move in a mighty way for all, and we're ready. We are so ready. We just want to push that out there, and we want to really honor you for your sing for freedom. That is so touching, and it is something where when we feel like there's nothing we can do, we can sing. We can praise and we can sing, and we know God's going to move on behalf of all of our January 6th POWs.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. We encourage everybody to get out and sing the national anthem, show your support for all of our January 6th inmates, defendants, and their families. Because, I mean, let's be honest, singing isn't going to save them, right? It's the legal process. But the more people that get out and sing, the more people become aware of what's going on, which means more voices, more hearts, more minds, and more determination gets put into this cause to help show the public what is actually going on: human rights abuses, the unconstitutional treatment, illegal search and seizure, people that have been in pre-trial confinement for a year and a half. They have not been to trial yet, but they're still sitting in a federal prison, being beaten, tortured, starved. I mean, they cut their food rations down to the point where they started getting scurvy because did not have enough nutrition. There's folks that have lost their eyesight. One gentleman actually lost an eyeball because he got beat by the by the guards so badly. And there's a gentleman that was maced because he wouldn't put on a mask and had an asthma attack. They're denying medical treatment. They're denying religious services. They're denying in-person meetings with their attorneys. They're denying visitation to their families, even by video. These guys have not seen their families' faces in 2 years. And again, they have never been convicted. They've never been to trial. And the reason, actually, and it's crazy that they deny them video visitation, is their vaccine status. They're not allowed to see their family over video because they won't consign to some gene experimental vaccine. And it's just abhorrent. We have not seen treatment of human beings like this since the uh, POW camps of the Vietnam War.
That's true.
And so I myself, like you said, I go by Anon online, Pi for the number because I'm a nerd, and PI, and then Anon is short for anonymous. I grew up on the Chan boards. That's where I started playing around on the internet. So, needless to say, I can keck it up with the best of them and take some of the best that the internet has to offer. I can step toe to toe some trolls, no problem.
That's awesome.
But so
I
Pi
did
Anon.
see a video. I'm sorry to interrupt. I had seen a video that was done with some of the January Sixers recently where they actually said they have sewer backing up into their
Yeah.
cells. Anytime anybody flushes a toilet, they're getting raw sewage.
Yeah, they turn off their water in their cells, and then that causes the sewage to back up. And every now and then, the commodes that are in their cells will explode with fecal matter and sewage all over the place. The U.S. Marshals came in and checked things out maybe 7, 8 months ago, and they found that the conditions within that prison were so unsanitary that they actually removed over 400 prisoners from that prison, citing unsanitary conditions. However, not a single January 6th defendant was moved. They were left to fester in those conditions.
And for those who don't know, if you've never heard of this story before and you're new to this, can you explain what jail we're talking about? This is the Washington D.C. Gulag.
Yeah, so the DC CTF, it's the federal prison there in DC, but it's actually that's the one that's been highlighted the most. The issue is actually that there are federal prisons all over the country. The worst one is, believe it or not, Northern Neck, which is in Virginia. It's even worse than the one in the DC, what we call the Gulag, because of the conditions in which they're being held. But Northern Neck Regional Jail the conditions are actually worse, and we want to try to highlight that as well. And so my actual name is Joseph Thomas. Okay, Kenneth Joseph Thomas. I don't use my very first name. That was my bio dad, and he's a real piece of work. So I don't go by Kenneth whatsoever, but Joseph Thomas. If you're looking up my indictment, it's Kenneth Thomas. But if you see me in person, Joe, Joseph, hey, you, that guy, I answer to them all. But online, I do go by Anon. And in May of last year, I was arrested by an FBI counterterrorism SWAT team. And like Dean had mentioned, I did not go into the building. I did not destroy anything. I did not attack anybody. I actually was helping to take weapons away from people that were in the crowd, trying to incite violence. I was actually turned over box cutters that we found stashed by the porta potties out by the White House Ellipse. I turned those over to Secret Service. The whole day I was there, I was preaching no violence, peace, peace. We want, freedom. This isn't why we're here. And actually had somebody in the crowd try to fist fight me because I was preaching no violence. But no violence, so I didn't fight him. So, but when I was there, I got assaulted by the police with nightsticks. I got assaulted with pepper spray, tear gas. It was either a rubber bullet or a bean bag that I caught to the back of the head. I'm not exactly sure because I was blinded by pepper spray, but it hurt a lot. It felt like I got hit with a baseball bat. But my point with that is that I saw abject tyranny that day. The day started beautifully. It was the most patriotic day of my life. There was a sea of red, white, and blue and smiles, and everybody was happy. They loved their nation. They were seeing acts of charity and kindness and compassion. And we had a determination to save our country, to show up as a show of numbers and ask our representatives to represent our wants, our needs, and our ideas as Americans. We wanted to make sure that the election system was sacred and safe and fair, and we wanted them to just look at the results, do a forensic audit before giving it a certification. In full disclosure, I actually don't care who's in office as long as it's legitimate. I support Trump. I love the orange man, but I have issues with him just as much as I had issues with every other president, because as Americans, we love to complain about our president. Love him, like him, hate him. We're going to complain about him because that's, as Americans, what we do. And for years, I've heard people say that the elections are rigged. And I've heard people say, things like this. But now, if we try to say it, we're censored, silenced, kicked off platforms, we're threatened with jail time. Some of them have actually been thrown in jail because they questioned the election in a public setting. This is something that we would normally complain about communist China or another third world country, but now it's here in our shores. And for some reason, people can't wrap their head around it because I'm still hearing them say, well, this is America. That can't happen. It's happening, folks. And
Yeah.
too many people are sitting on their hands and not doing anything about it. Violence.
There you go.
I'm not, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm not talking about violence. I never am. I am staunchly nonviolent. But people need to speak up. They need to stop worrying about what's on Twitter and Facebook, and they need to start living real life. Get involved locally in your local community, and that can honestly make a national impact. The United States of America is the only country in the world where the Constitution gives us, we the people, the power from the bottom up. It's the federal government has to listen to us, we the people. And that's why we showed up in DC as a show of numbers to show our representatives what it is that we want. The Declaration of Independence states that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, the government are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That line right there is so extremely important. The consent of the governed. It is our consent that allows them to tell us what to do. So if we don't comply, if we don't consent, then they cannot govern us. And as Americans, we need to say enough is enough.
Amen.
I'm not trying to go on a tirade. I'm kind of sorry, but I'm extremely passionate about this because I am seeing men and women that I have become dear friends with over the last 2 years being treated in ways that I would never wish upon even my worst enemy. I was in the military and I've seen tyranny. I have seen what socialist nations have become. I have seen civilization at the bottom of the dregs of life. And I unfortunately am seeing signs of that happening here, and I cannot sit silent. When I was arrested in May, I was awarded bond by the grace of God Almighty, and I was able to come home, even though I have 10 charges, 5 of which are felonies. And yes, I will be getting more charges coming to me. That was a beautiful gift that the prosecutor informed me of my last hearing. I'm just waiting for the grand jury to figure out if it's going to be 1 more, 2 more, 10 more, who knows. But in all actuality, I know what I did and did not do, so they could throw 50 more charges at me, and I don't care because I didn't do anything. I stood up, I used my First Amendment right of freedom of speech, and I helped protect the defenseless, stood up for the vulnerable, provided aid to the wounded, preached no violence the whole time I was there. I was telling the Capitol Police that we back the blue, saying that we were up here speaking up for your rights too. I'm not the problem, but I have 9.5 hours of video of people being the problem, like the guy that pulled a sawzall out of his backpack and started cutting the skirting down off of the scaffolding so that they could use it against Capitol Police. The gentleman that tried to fist fight me in preaching no violence, talking about bringing in the Marines to shoot all the Capitol Police. The guy that screamed at me, "What do you mean no violence? How do you expect to get your country back?" And him inciting violence in the crowd as well. And by the way, my response to him was the constitutional process, buddy. That's how we always do it, and that's how America will
Exactly.
always think.
And one thing that has been brought to light, of course, and some may know, some may not, is that most of these people you're talking about were plants. These
None of
are
them have
not,
been arrested.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, none of them have been arrested. The
right,
the grandma that goes and sang the national anthem, she's now considered by Homeland Security a terrorist on the no-flight list. She did 60 days in a federal penitentiary, no criminal record whatsoever. But yet these people can throw Molotov cocktails at cop cars during the summer of love. They get a $50 fine, and the judge says, "Oh, they were just letting off some steam."
yeah,
It's absolutely ridiculous. There is a two-tier justice system, and they are attacking their political opponents. So I cannot thank you guys enough for allowing me to have this moment to speak in your platform. The Sing for Freedom, like you had mentioned at the very beginning, sing the number 4 freedom. It's a hashtag, it's a website, it's a movement, and it is a call to action. So in the summer of last year, I heard a recording come out of the DC CTF, the gulag in DC that these men are being held in. I heard them singing the national anthem. They, on their own, out of love of nation, out of the need to be unified in solidarity with one another, decided to sing the national anthem of the nation that is persecuting them, by the way. But they can see that this nation is much larger than just one administration. So they decided from their cells every night at 9 p.m. to sing the national anthem together. And somehow a recording of that got out of the prison. I heard that recording, and I had been praying to God for a while. What can I do with this gift of freedom? You know, I have basically a life sentence facing before me because I'm already 40. By the time I get out with 30, 40 years, I'll be in my 80s, 90s years old. You know, it's ridiculous. But they sang the national anthem, and I heard that, and it moved me to a point where I felt that that was God answering my prayer. And so I said to myself, and I said to the Lord, if this is it, then I'm going to run head first. And I went out on my front porch and I decided to sing with them. My neighbor heard me. She asked me about it. I told her. It horrified her. But a couple days later, she came back out on her porch with her son and sang the national anthem at 9 p.m.
Hallelujah.
Knowing that I was not alone, knowing that right there, the power of what I consider a perfect peaceful protest. It revives patriotism. It is a way for us to show support to them and to snub our nose at the establishment because they say that the national anthem gives them PTSD. And they cannot label us as hateful, bigots, Nazis, anti whatever, like all the monikers they throw at us, because all we're doing is showing that we love our country. And so I started to push it online with the hashtag of sing the number 4 freedom. And I have been for the last 2 years begging everybody under the sun, please post videos of you singing the national anthem. If you can't post a video, then go out and sing it. That'd be great. The reason I pushed it, I want to see video, is because the families of these January 6th inmates, they see those videos. They see them. They realize that they're not alone. It gives them hope. It gives them strength. It gives them faith in our nation, which is the one persecuting them and discriminating against their ideologies. It's been prosecuting them with the full weight of the federal government. So if you can, and then we have a community full of very creative people. They can make, memes and video clips and music, and there is no limitation to what can be done by the patriots in our community because we have some extremely creative people.
We have the
So
most
however and whenever, put
amazing
something out
Anons
there
out
to show that you love your country, sing the anthem, and dedicate it to our January 6th inmates, defendants, and their families by using the hashtag Sing for Freedom. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. You get me riled
No,
up. I can.
it always blesses me so much because you go out and you look on social media and you see people that just like us. Okay, we're just grandparents in our 50s sitting at home. There's not a whole lot physically sometimes that we can do, but we can share and we can sing and we can promote those that are doing the right thing. And it is so important. And I just get so blessed watching the Anon community come together and unite. The infighting has to stop. That all that has to stop. But it is time for just all of God's people to come together as one united voice. And I think that that is so key. And we watch a lot of the prophets, and the one thing that we're hearing over and over and over from God is Him saying, use your voice.
Use your authority.
Use your authority and use your voice. And so, Sing for Freedom is a way to use your voice. And
Absolutely.
you can stand out on your front porch with your flag and sing it. You can sing it in front of the computer, whatever you want to do. But please join Anon and these wonderful patriots and sing for freedom. And even those of us that don't have great voices, it comes from the heart, and you can tell it comes from the heart. And we have watched. I can't watch those without crying every song. I'm just like, oh, I'm just a puddle. But you know, my heart goes out to all the people and the families of these January 6ers that again came to hear Trump speak and came to unify. It was about unity, and the the elite can't handle it. They can't handle it. They have to just kill, steal, and destroy. That's what they're about. It's satanic, and this all ties in. You know, it's one battle. It's one thing. But use your voice, and God bless you for yours.
Yeah, and that we can shake the walls of Jericho. And if
Yeah,
we get enough voices out there, we can take down the walls of Jericho. And you're right, it people that might not be able to sing, let me give you a little secret. It's not American Idol, it's American patriotism,
that's right.
right? I'm not here for an audition. I'm here for a sound nation. I want to make sure that my kids and my grandkids and their kids can grow up in a nation that I am proud to be an American. In the great words of Lee Greenwood, we need to stand up next to her because these men and women are suffering. They're innocent. And now I'm not in denial. Some people broke the law that day and they need to be held accountable.
Right,
Right. I'm not blind to it.
right.
But overweight, overbearing, overwhelming punishments, right? They're guilty of trespassing. That's maximum 6 months. They've been sitting in jail for a year and a half. If they broke something, then they need to be able to pay the restitution to repair it and be held accountable for that one action, not just a blanket of fault thrown on everybody that was there. And no matter what, when you walk into those courts, just because they were at the Capitol, doesn't matter what you were charged with, they are going to find you guilty on all charges. There is video out there exonerating people, and the juries still find them guilty. The bias is disgusting. So I
It's
do
so
implore.
incredibly irritating as well that these people are still in jail, still waiting for trials, and yet murderers are being let back out on the street, dangerous to society. They're
Yeah.
being let on the street with no bail, no bond. It's just not fair. It's not right.
There
Right.
was one death that day, and they've lied about that. There was one death, and that was an FBI agent that shot somebody else.
Actually, there were five. There were five deaths. Ashley Babbitt was shot by Capitol Security
Right,
under Nancy Pelosi. Roseanne Boylan was beat to death with a nightstick. Two other gentlemen died of heart attacks because of concussion grenades that were thrown into the crowd. One of which I know for sure they denied giving him care. People were trying to give him care and they pushed him away. Brian Sicknick, the Capitol police officer that they say was beat to death with a fire extinguisher, that is absolutely false. He did die, but he died of a stroke, and that's according to the medical examiner.
Was
And the
that not
Capitol,
the following day?
and wasn't that the next day?
yeah, but he had the stroke that day.
Okay, okay,
The Capitol Police neglected or are guilty of negligence because they did not give him care.
right.
So five people lost their lives that day. And since then, I know of at least three other patriots that have taken their lives and a long list of Capitol Police that have taken their lives because of this situation as well. It is disgusting. And I have nothing bad to say about any of the Capitol Police except that they need to honor their oath. All the
Right.
FBI agents that were there, they need to honor their oath. Well, I'm not going to characterize the whole group because of the actions of a few that I had seen, and they know what they had done. As for I've become dear friends with Mickey Whithoff, Ashley Babbitt's mother, and it absolutely tears me up to imagine the pain that she must feel. Which they have been holding a vigil outside of the DC gulag, out of the jail and outside the DC in jail in DC. Sorry, I can't talk. Get me all worked up. I'm about to
Yeah.
tear up here. But they've been holding a vigil nightly since August of this year, and they're out there singing for freedom with them at 9 p.m. with the inmates inside, actually on the phone, and they have them on the phone while they sing the anthem all together. They are out there singing patriotic songs, playing music, praying, protesting, and they even have these counter protesters that come out to outskirts of where they're at and start screaming obscenities and some of the vulgar things that come out of their mouth, especially towards Mickey, about her daughter and the loss of her child. They're going to have to answer to God for that one day.
Yes.
And I commend Mickey for her fighting spirit and her ability to just shed away those flaming arrows that get slung at her. So for any of your viewers that might not know, this is much bigger than anybody could ever imagine. The consequences of us being silent is going to be the destruction of our nation. Because first they came after the January 6ers. Then they're going to come after anybody else that doesn't agree with their ideas or their thoughts, the other political opposition. And that means you. They're coming after you next. We saw this type of tactics done in 1930s Berlin, where they came after the artists, then they came after the authors, then they came after the next person and the next type of people. And eventually, after they came after you, there was nobody else around to speak up, right? We've all heard that adage. Well, it's happening and it's here. So Sing for Freedom, yes, is a campaign to get people involved. I actually have a website, which is my name down here. It's sing4freedom.us. And that is a place that you can go to submit videos if you wish. I use Telegram because there is no file size limitation. If somebody wants to send a 1 gig video of them doing some massive production of the national anthem for our J6ers, then so be it, have at it. But the website, Sing for Freedom, you can click on there, submit a video and all that. I have a listing of a lot of the J6ers Give, Send, Goes. We use Give, Send, Go. It's a very wonderful Christian crowdsourcing fundraising site because all of us got banned from GoFundMe. You know, a lot of us tried to get a GoFundMe and then they banned us for trying to promote terrorism, or at least that was the excuse when I tried a GoFundMe for a lawyer. They banned me and said I was trying to promote terrorism. So Give, Send, Go, God bless them. They are really the only platform that we can raise money for legal defense, or some of these families are losing their homes, their kids have been taken away, like absolute destruction of their lives. It's hard to put into words. I talk to their families quite often and they cry on my shoulder, and I do everything that I can, but I'm just one man. You know, I have a wife and 4 kids myself. I'm facing several decades in a federal prison. So honestly, I see this as our Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego moment. For those that might not be familiar with it, they were thrown into a furnace because they would not bow to an evil king called Nebuchadnezzar. They refused because they did not bow to anybody but God. So he threw them in a furnace. And when they were thrown into that furnace, they survived, and not even a single hair on their head was burned because Christ was in there with them. And they walked out completely unharmed. And that drove the king completely mad, and he ran off into the wilderness to eventually, after a while, becoming a believer in God himself. So this is the moment where we cannot bow to Nebuchadnezzar, even if I get thrown into the furnace. I was offered a plea deal. They offered me 51 months, which is just shy of 4 years, along with $500,000 in fines and a long list of all these hoops that I would have to jump through. And I told them very politely where they could put it. And so now I will be going to trial on Pi Day, March 14th, 3/14 of all days. I know, right?
Wow.
No such thing as coincidence.
And go God. He's got a plan for you, brother.
Yep. But no matter what happens, I will trust in the name of the Lord. Now, I know you guys didn't know this beforehand, but I'm actually an independent minister back home.
Love it.
So for the last 7 years of my life, I have been doing my best to glorify him and expound on his word to those that are around me. And I believe that the events in my life have led me up to this point. I was in the military, United States Navy. We just lost a football game against Army. That's all I'm going to say about it. I don't want to talk about it no more.
That's enough of that.
But I was also a little bit rough and tumble growing up. You know, there was a time in my life where I was addicted and afflicted and in and out of jail and running in some pretty rough corners. And eventually, because of that path that I had taken, falling in the mud face first numerous times, I found my faith and God picked me up, dusted me off, and walked along beside me until I could get back on the path with him. And since then, I've gone along his path to get where I'm at now. And in that journey, I have become extremely knowledgeable in scripture. I know it very intimately, and to where I can get up and speak about Christ and glorify him in front of others, which is not an easy task in my opinion, because I'm stage like I'm shy, right? Yeah, I can be a little extroverted and be out there if I need to, but I really wasn't used to that. I was the nerdy little quiet kid in the corner that didn't want to speak up so the bully wouldn't take my lunch money.
And
Um,
it's just like he said, he will use the foolish to confound the wise.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how
well,
we
he's
feel.
definitely using this full.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we feel.
But um, I just want folks to say, you know, visit the website. You can check out the give, send, goes of our January 6th families. Help them out as much as you can. God loves a generous giver. Even $2,
Yeah.
$3, $1, you know, it all adds up. And also on the website, I have a list of groups on my affiliates page. They are legitimate groups. You mentioned infighting. Unfortunately, because of this tragedy, some people want to profit off of the backs of others suffering. And the only infighting that I know, other than like little squabbles between people because somebody didn't text them back quick enough or whatever petty thing it may be, the only actual infighting that I'm aware of is that a very large group involved with January 6th just got caught red handed stealing money from fundraisers to fatten their own pockets. So that infighting is necessary because we cannot have a wolf amongst us.
Right.
So the affiliates page on my website has a listing of legitimate groups that are there to help. None of them are there to make a profit. None of them are there to make themselves known or famous. As a matter of fact, half of them are websites created by actual January 6th inmates in the prison right now because their wives or something created a website for them. That's how we help. We help directly. We don't ask for some middleman. The only mediator we need is Christ. So go to the website, check out the affiliates page, and get involved. We need boots on the ground. We need volunteers. We need people that are willing to go out there and do something, anything, send out postcards, even anything to help. And when it comes to fundraising, only donate directly to the J6ers. Don't go through any other groups because there are too many hands in the pots and trying to fatten their own pockets.
Thank
And
you.
we will have links below in the description of where you can go.
Yes.
Singforfreedom.us, other links as well, to where you can go and know that you're actually giving to help the J6 prisoners and not just fattening some scum's
Right.
pockets.
Right. I'm
Another
not going to call
thing.
them out, but they know who they are, you know, because I don't push infighting either, but they know who
Right.
they are and they got exposed. And so now they're actually blackmailing guys in prison saying, stop talking about us or we're going to give video to the feds that'll incriminate you. Stuff like that. You know, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. Do you happen to have, and I should have asked before, but do you happen to have a list of some of the addresses and things where people can write
So
directly to the January Sixers?
yes. All right. So
Okay.
the best way to do that, and their rules are extremely strict. So instead of taking another hour and a half on your show to try to explain it all, I'm going to refer you to a website. The lady that runs this, Paula, is an absolute angel, and there's another woman, Marie Goodwin, that helps her run that as well. Her son is Marie's son is a January Sixer. It's called PatriotMailProject.com. Patriot Mail Project is I've been a member of them since I got arrested. That's how I got into the J6 community is I heard about the Patriot Mail Project and I wanted to send out some letters because I got freedom and I was like I wanted to send out some encouragement that I will be out here speaking up to bring awareness to them. And I got in touch with Marie, who got me in touch with Paula, who got me in touch with all these other groups. And I've been neck deep in the J6 community since May of last year. And I absolutely love them. Marie does watercolors, like she paints, and she makes personalized postcards for the January 6th prisoners, the defendants and their families. And she's constantly just sending them out everywhere. And, she can actually help if somebody wants to remain anonymous even and send them a letter, or protect their address so that their address doesn't get stuck in a federal prison. Cause I mean, that could be kind of scary. They will do it in ways that can protect your anonymity, protect the anonymity of the families as well. Cause some families, I've been getting death threats. I've had people shoot at my house. Families are scared. And so she can be the one that helps facilitate the letter writing back and forth to the prisoners.
Thank you.
And it is absolutely an amazing website. So patriotmailproject.com. Please add that in your descriptions.
Yes.
Another, the website of the folks that are doing the vigil outside the jail in DC is justice.org. Randy Ireland, he is a mover and shaker in this community. He has dedicated tens of thousands of dollars of his own money to help keep this vigil down in DC going. And down there with Mickey Withoff, Ashley Babbitt's mother, her website is the number 4ashli.com. So it's 4ashli.com. And that's a website dedicated to Ashley Babbitt, the woman that was shot at the Capitol. And the reason that she's out there, I can't imagine the strength that this woman has. But the reason she's there, she wants to honor her daughter, and she feels that Ashley would have been outside the jail and at the Capitol speaking up and fighting for the rights and freedoms of the men and women that are incarcerated illegally. So she wants to honor her daughter, and that's why she's out there every single night on the phone with the January 6th inmates inside the jail, singing the national anthem, promoting their Give, Send, Goes. They actually go and put money on their commissary books inside the jails. There's a lot of stuff that they're out there doing. I could throw links at you all day long because
we'll take them,
there's
and we'll list them all. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of sites that are doing great things, but the easiest way for me to tell you is just singforfreedom.us, sing the number 4 freedom.us, and then go to the affiliates page, and you will see a whole litany of ones that are out there moving and shaking mountains to help these men and women. And again, none of those groups are out to get a profit. They have open and transparent finances, because some of them do accept donations to keep their organizations going, but they publicize every bit of it, every penny that gets spent, unlike others that we're not going to mention. So the Sing for Freedom campaign is my baby, but as I am the one that started the hashtag and the movement out here, but it's because of the patriotism, love of nation, and sheer tenacity of the men inside the jails. And I've had the chance to speak to many of them in there, and they were the inspiration. God was the mover, but giving them strength and hope was the entire purpose, and to bring awareness to their situation. It actually has gotten to the main stage now. It has interrupted 2 different Trump rallies in the middle of Trump speaking.
Yes.
And that was mind-blowing.
That was precious.
A very good friend of mine and also fellow January 6th defendant by the name of Trennis Evans, he was the one that stood up in the crowd and started singing the national anthem at 9 at the Trump rally to get the rest of the crowd involved. And it was extremely moving to see a stadium of 20,000 people plus doing Sing for Freedom all at once. And Trump stood back and allowed that to happen. They were informed ahead of time that it was going to happen, but they did not give it the okay, like they didn't say, yeah, it's fine, do it. They just stood back and said, just let it happen.
Yeah.
However, just recently, and I'm not sure if you know this or not, but Ted Nugent, the Nuge, he actually did Sing for Freedom at his concert with Leonard Skinner and a bunch of other people down in Florida for the hurricane relief. And, Trennis Evans is a mover and shaker. He has a lot of contacts, a lot of connections, and he got it to the point where Ted Nugent actually did the Sing for Freedom and dedicated it to the January 6ers on stage. that was absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler alert, but there's going to be a lot more coming.
All
So folks,
right.
get involved, right? There's some big names doing this. There's people, some artists, some of your favorites are going to be out there singing for freedom for the January Sixers. And so if they can do it, you can do it.
Amen.
These people are sitting in jail because they love their country and they were trying to unite us all. I think, and it's very important that we come back and show them that their country loves them too.
Yes, they're not
Right.
alone.
They didn't do it for naught.
The summer of last year when I started this campaign was some of the darkest times for them. That was when they spent almost a year in solitary confinement. Anything more than 3 months in solitary confinement, according to the Nelson Mandela Act, constitutes torture. They spent a year in solitary. They thought they had been forgotten about. They thought it was hopeless. They were falling into despair. And then they heard that people, Americans like you and me and your neighbors, they're all out there singing with them. They heard that from inside their steel doors. You know how strengthening and how moving that could have been for them. And that's my motivation. My
Yes.
motivation is the fact that they need all of the hope that they can get. And now we want folks to go out there and show them that they're not alone. Sing for freedom. Sing the number 4, freedom, right? My banner.
Sing
Right there.
for freedom. Yes.
Right. Saying the number 4. And it seems simple, but because people have gone out onto their porch, went to a sporting event in other different places, and they sang the national anthem for our January Sixers, it's getting big names involved, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Louis Gohmert,
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump, Ted Nugent. Sorry, my mind just went blank.
Mm.
Tons of podcasters, tons of people out there online. You guys, I would never have been here if Sing for Freedom was just me, a slack-jawed yokel from the hills of West Virginia, sitting on my porch belting out the Star-Spangled Banner. But it's the love of nation. It is American exceptionalism of every single patriot that is willing to go out there and show they love their country, to speak up and sing away. No matter how bad it might sound, it sounds beautiful to the ears of a patriot.
Yes.
That's what this nation is about.
Where we go one, we go all.
And
100%.
you really have been such an inspiration to us,
Oh,
even to do this, because like I told you when before we even went live, we are not tech savvy. We are not. We had to learn how to do Zoom just to start a podcast. But when God says go, you go. When God says
that's
do,
it.
you do. And we don't feel like we have necessarily a lot to offer. I mean, there's so much we would like to do that we're not in a position to do. I'll say it that way. But God, and just allowing you to come speak truth to people that may have never heard of this before. And it blows my mind that there are people that don't have a clue this is going on.
Yeah.
That, to me, this has eaten up 2 years of, for us, it's like we can't, it's hard to lay your head down at night knowing that you've got brothers and sisters that are locked away from their families and everything. And every night they're on a cold cot in deplorable conditions that aren't even, I mean, I can't even wrap my head around it. And how blessed, we're all blessed enough to do something. And if all you can do is sing.
What makes America great? What are we known for? Everybody knows as Americans, individually, we may not be much, but collaboratively, collectively, all together, there's nothing that can stop Americans, and everyone in the world knows that.
That's right.
So we need to come together as a nation and just
stand up
and get stuff done. Nothing can stop Americans when they're banded together. And that's what we need to do is unify and just take care of business, because that's what we do.
That's right.
Absolutely. What makes America great? Freedom. And
Amen.
Americans need freedom, especially those that are innocent and being held illegally. So
Yes.
sing for freedom, because freedom is a gift from God. Christ gave us freedom from sin. That is freedom, true freedom, and only God can give it. But when it comes to earthly freedom, it's up to us. If we allow them to step on our necks, then that's what's going to happen. So just stand up and speak. God doesn't want us to fight. He's already won. He goes before us in this battle. We just need to stand. That's it. That's all he asks us to do, is to stand our ground, and he will win this fight for us. So like I said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I'm not budging. They can bury me under that prison. I will still trust in the name of the Lord.
That's right.
And speaking of freedom, I just started a new audio podcast to help get the information out there and educate those that might not know what's going on, and doing updates for the inmates and what's going on with their cases. It's called Freedom Unchained. You can find it on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, anywhere that you like to listen to podcasts. I'm probably there. So yeah, the Liberty links. It's going to have a list of all of the links and social medias that I'm on. Follow me, and I'll give you all the information that you need about how you can actually help and make a difference for the J6ers and their families. And one thing I do want to give a quick shout out, a friend of mine that has been doing this Sing for Freedom pretty much from the very beginning, goes by the name of Joan Up online. Her real name is Mel Hawley. She is just a spitfire of a patriot, and she has been doing a daily update podcast online. It's on Rumble and on my website and a bunch of different places. It's called Justice in Jeopardy. She actually gives court updates from inside the courthouse there in DC. She actually speaks to the J6ers on the phone, while like does interviews with them on the phone. No other newscast, no other place can you go and find daily, up-to-date, firsthand information. And she is dedicated to the cause of January 6th and to Sing for Freedom, when she's dedicated her life for the last 2 years. And so I just want to give a huge thank you to her, because it's Americans like her that show that tenacity, that they're willing to just do something. Not everybody can run for office. Not everybody can be a billionaire and donate a bunch of money. Not everybody can go out there and protest or picket or whatever, which I never promote that either. I don't think the last protest I went to didn't go well, so I wouldn't recommend it. But not everybody can do those, but everybody can do something, whether it's to write your congressman, call your House of Representatives, call your local school boards, get involved in your local civics, go and vote and make sure that your vote counts and make sure it's legitimate. But if you can't do anything, if none of this seems appealing to you, you can sing, you can show your support, share people's videos, share your own videos. You can sing the national anthem by yourself in the shower. That love that you're putting out into the world, that God can hear you, it'll be like a prayer into the hearts of the January 6th inmates.
Yes.
So
And
Sing for
please
Freedom.
consider sending cards, um, Christmas cards this time of year to our January 6ers. Can they get
Yep.
Christmas cards, something colorful? You know,
No,
something. No,
they can't.
white envelopes only.
White envelopes, white blank paper, like the list of rules that are needed to be able to write them. Go to patriotmailproject.com and it'll explain it all. Marie, Paula, they'll be more than happy to help folks understand what the rules are, and then also understand that their mail might be held for a couple months before they're even allowed to see it. So yeah, they don't get their mail. No, I mean, they get it, but it'll be months down the road.
Okay.
Speaking of Christmas, one of my absolute favorite holidays. There is a January 6th defendant that reached out to me and wants us to do a singing of O Holy Night with the January 6th inmates in the DC prison on Christmas Eve. And there will be a prayer for them to be released into the prayers that we do nightly. But when the J6 inmates sing the national anthem at the DC Vigil on Christmas Eve at 9 p.m., they will also be singing O Holy Night. And I think it's going to be extremely moving. We have live streamers that are down at the Vigil nightly. It starts at 7 o'clock. Again, my website, you can check it out. I want my website to be like a central hub for everybody to find whatever it is that they need. If they want to know where to find live streams, it's my website. You want to find my podcast or podcasters that are up there doing stuff, check my website. I do not make money off of my website. I'm not here to make a profit. And I have actually donated I have a job. I've donated thousands of dollars of my own to other J6ers and their families. And I'm still stuck with a public defender. I don't have an actual lawyer because Jesus Christ is the only advocate that I need, and God is the only one that can judge me. There is, I'm actually in the works of trying to do something with my case that hopefully will gonna make a huge difference for others as well as myself. I'm not going to fall on my sword because, mama didn't raise no dummy, but there's going to be some big things coming out soon. So folks, get involved. We need as many voices as possible. Check out the live stream for Christmas Eve, little January 6th Christmas
Yes,
caroling going on,
we'll do
along
that.
with our national anthem.
And thank you so much for your time. We are so blessed to have just had you. Such an honor to see you.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry, I just kind of ramble, but I'm so passionate.
no,
No.
that's exactly what we wanted. We just wanted you to share the story and encourage people that may not have known exactly what was going on, what is going on and how to make a difference, how you can stand up and encourage those January Sixers that are still there, encourage their families. Pray if we can all pray, and there is nothing more powerful than your prayers. So we're praying for you guys every day, several
I think
times a
it's
day.
so important. You can't expect one man to do 100 million things, but if you can get 100 million people to do one thing,
Yeah.
it's massive. And so the more we can get this out there, the more that people know what's going on and get involved, sing if that's all they can do. But if we can get the masses out there, it will have an effect, and God will do what He will do.
That's
And we
it.
know He's got it.
There's only one time that I've ever seen one man change the world, and that was Christ.
That's right.
Amen. And he's going to do it
It,
again. He's
it'll
about to
take
do it again.
it'll
Yeah.
take 100 million people to do one simple thing here on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus is who we lean upon.
Amen.
And we need you guys out there to do something, anything. Sing for freedom, if that's what you can do. If not, encourage others. I hope to see your guys' video of singing for freedom posted on there. We will share it and spread it around. And I
We'll
knew because
have
I heard you guys sing nightly. But we cannot thank you enough. I certainly appreciate it. I've heard about you screaming still there. Don't try
Okay,
to
I
fake
do. That's the only part. Because he sings it. It's so sweet. He sings it. And he has a beautiful voice. He has a beautiful voice. And then he gets to the point, and I'm like in my heavy metal, still there. And that's my part of the song. So
That's
yeah,
it. And the reason
But
that they
we will
scream,
download it to
you'll
give
have it.
encouragement to all those people who can't sing. Well, I can do better than that.
Yeah, you can do better than us. So
We'll be out there.
we'll be with you. We'll hang with you.
and real quick, the reason that they scream still there, right? They're singing the national anthem of the nation that is persecuting them. Like, let that
Yes,
sink in for a second. But they
right.
scream still there because they want them to know that they are using the national anthem to snub their nose at the establishment, and they are still there. The voice of the people is still there. The right
Yes,
given to us in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence is still there. And we as Americans are still there. We are still with them. And
yes. Where we
so
go,
please,
one we
folks,
go all.
that's it. Where we go one, we go all.
Yes,
Hashtag sing for freedom. Post it online with the video of you singing the national anthem. Show these families that you care. We have folks that do it nightly. We have folks that do it once a month. We have folks that do it one time. But every single video means a great deal to the families that are going through this suffering. And if you want to get involved, you want to help, check out my website, sing the number 4 freedom.us. And if you're looking for a little entertainment from this slack-jawed yokel, check out my weekly podcast on Spotify, which is called Freedom Unchained.
we
Can't promise how
highly
long it'll
encourage
be up.
you to do that.
Yeah, I cannot promise how long it'll be up because as soon as they realize they have a January 6th defendant in there speaking truth and speaking his mind, I'll probably get banned from there like I got banned from every other social media platform. But
Yep.
while it's up, enjoy Freedom Unchained. And thank you guys again for having me very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
We blessed.
Joseph Thomas.
We have
Anon.
enjoyed it.
We appreciate it so much, and we will get this word out to as many people as we can.
God
Yeah,
bless
We
and
you.
appreciate
please,
your time.
for folks that can, please help out the J6ers Give Send Goes.
Yes.
I have them all listed on my website. You can check them out. If go to the January or go to givesendgo.com and type in capital in their search bar, and you can find a bunch of them there as well.
And
That's
we
how
will
I find
have
them.
all those links. We're going to link everything in the description of this video. And of course, like we said, please share this far and wide for
Yes,
your folks
please,
as
folks.
well as yours.
Our lives depend on it, quite literally.
Very
Yes.
much so.
Yeah. God bless you. God bless America. God bless all of our January 6ers. We love you all and thank you so much.